Hello, and welcome to the Full Send Half Mast podcast, episode number 27. Tom is currently away from camera right now, so we'll just get right into this. So, we are here to cover the races this weekend. We had SRX racing at Motor Mile. We also had the trucks, Xfinity, and Cup racing this weekend. Xfinity at Road America, trucks over and Cup over at Richmond, as well as Formula One, Formula Two in Spa, which is one of my favorite circuits in the world. And also gonna go over our driver of the week, bonehead of the week. We'll go over all the point standings for F1 and Cup, as well as preview all the races we have this weekend. We got a full slate again. And then we'll give you our infamous radioactive of the week, as well as our NASCAR fantasy lineups for this week. But first off, before we start this episode, we're going to get a quick word from our sponsor. W Energy Blends, introducing Neurofactor, an all-natural coffee cherry extract to help fuel you with energy, laser focus, and fast reflexes. Provides concentration with important amino acids and vitamins without the crash that ordinary canned energy drinks just cannot provide. Try amazing flavors such as Dragonade, Dub Sludge, Galaxy Grenade, and my personal favorite, Beach and Peach. Buy the starter pack today, including 2 flavors and a shake cup for an extremely low price. Follow the link in the description below and use promo code DAGABOYS for 10% off your order. Thanks to Dubby for your continued sponsorship of the Dega Boys broadcasting. Alrighty, we're going to jump right into the news here first. First off here, we have the Xfinity Series is getting a 7-year contract deal with the CW network. I'm stoked about this. The CW is taking a huge leap of faith in the Xfinity Series, which we've been hampering this home for months now, that it is the best racing league in arguably in the world. It's very competitive. Some of the best drivers. The cars are super hard to drive, super entertaining and fun to watch. True racing. If they took away the stage racing, it would be without a doubt probably the greatest series on planet Earth and in history. Honestly, it's such a great series. So it's huge that the CW is taking a huge leap of faith in this series to sign a 7-year deal. That's a huge contract. That's all the way up to starting in 2025 all the way to 2032. So that is huge. Also, Sean Hingorani, he wins the Shasta 150 at Shasta Speedway for the ARCA West. Gets a little bit of redemption after his shenanigans that he had there at Mid-Ohio a few weeks back. Also, Paul Tracy was suspended from the SRX after incidents in the recent race this weekend at Motor Mile. We'll talk more about that here in a minute. So, unfortunately for Paul Tracy, running full-time for points, will be sitting out for at least one race this coming up weekend. Also in the news, lots of news, right? Shane Van Gisbergen said in a press conference that he is potentially looking at running full-time or part-time in the 2024 NASCAR season. Sooner than we expected. Probably sooner than he expected, but with the big success that he had there in Chicago Street Course, I mean, the options are endless for this guy. I'm really curious to see what he could do at the Indianapolis Road Course and potentially maybe get a second win in his second start. That'd be a pretty far reach, very hard to do, but he has shown immense talent and quick adaptability to the new Cup car and really put it on those boys there. And he is looking at challenging himself in running Cup Series. So that is really exciting. Also, to note, Jake Dennis secures the Formula E Championship this weekend at the London Stadium Course race. So big moments there for him. And if you guys haven't seen that race, go check out the highlights. That race was crazy, absolute shenanigans. But he did end up securing the Formula E Championship. Also, this weekend, making a start or their debut in the GTP class in IMSA at Road America this weekend, Proton in their number 59 Porsche. Their drivers will be Tinknell and Bruni. We've noted this in a past podcast that they were looking at making an attempt at the World Endurance Championship, GTP class, and IMSA. Well, here it is. Here they are. So that's going to put it up to 10 GTP entries in IMSA, which is crazy because we've seen all the manufacturers win so far. And to add another Porsche another team that's running Porsche into the lineup or into the fold is pretty exciting. More the better, something that NASCAR needs to learn while all these other series keep increasing in numbers and they keep going backwards. Also to note, Alpine's principal Otmar Schauhauser and director Alan Permain have departed after this weekend's race at Spa. So that is very intriguing. This team has been on the up and up. Me and Tom keep praising this team time and time again. They got probably arguably two of the best drivers in all of Formula One. The French team running with French drivers. They keep improving week in, week out. And here they are losing their director and principal on the team. So some big shakeups there for them. Next, we're going to get straight into the race recaps from this weekend. This weekend, we saw the SRX at Motor Mile. Like I mentioned, the Truck and Cup at Richmond, Xfinity at Road America, and then F1, F2 at Belgium for the Belgium Grand Prix weekend. We'll start off with the Thursday race here at Motor Mile. SRX, they, like we've noted before, if you've seen it, they have 2 heat races. They do the first heat race, you get points, and then they invert the field for the second heat race. So your first heat race winner was Marco Andretti, and then your second heat race winner here was Clint Bowyer, which to note was my dark horse last week. So he was running really well in the heat races. But then after the 2 heat races, they take your average finish, and that's how they set up the lineup for the main event. Tony Stewart found himself on pole. He led this race all the way till lap 47 when Brad Keselowski took the lead. And then major controversy here. He was leading the race. Kyle Busch was faster than him, closing up on him, ends up turning Brad Keselowski from the lead to take the lead. So very unfortunate there for Brad Keselowski. But Kyle Busch did end up taking the lead here. And really the only shenanigans here was this big crash here with 12 to go when Paul Tracy, we've noted this in the past. I mean, and the last few seasons, really, Paul Tracy has kind of been the Ross Chastain, or per se, of the SRX series. Comes off a turn 4 with 12 to go and just puts Newgarden right into the wall, creates a chain reaction crash, takes out multiple drivers, and especially Ken Schrader there, who was very, very frustrated with Paul Tracy after this race for all good and due reason. And like I mentioned, SRX did end up suspending Paul Tracy. I'm not sure if Ken Schrader is coming back or not. He did say at the end of the race that he was not going to race against Paul Tracy anymore because he is an absolute moron. But I love it. I mean, this is what you want more of, right? You want more aggression, more Paul Tracy's in the world. Everybody seems to hate this guy. And I think he's just great for SRX. Brings so much entertainment factor. Although he did put Joseph Newgarden into the wall. And it's going to nominate him as a bonehead move of the week because not only did he wreck Newgarden and Schrader, he wrecked himself. And that's the number 1 rule in racing. If you're going to wreck somebody, don't wreck yourself. That'll put you straight onto the bonehead of the week segment nominee. And then also, really, we had a caution there with 3 to go when Andretti spun. It looked like he might have lost a tire or something. He was just going into turn 1, went around. But that ultimately didn't prevent Kyle Busch from getting his first career SRX win. Big moment here for him. And adds his name to first-time winners in the SRX. That's pretty cool. We see Newman win last year, get his first win. Then this year so far, we saw Hamlin win to get his first win. Now Kyle Busch gets his first win. It'll be interesting to see how many more drivers making SRX starts can get their first career win. All right, next we're going to move on to the Truck Series, the Worldwide Express 250 at Richmond. We saw Ty Majeski get pole here, dominated stage 1, ends up taking stage 1. And then the big controversy here is in stage 2 on the restart for stage 2. Corey Heim was restarting, I believe, in the 3rd or 4th row. The guys in front of him didn't get going, so he pulled down just off of the bumper of the guy in front of him, went lane lower. didn't improve his position, didn't advance his position, didn't jump the restart, nothing to that effect. But guess what? Big Daddy NASCAR'd him, and they considered him changing lanes before the start, which clearly didn't do because he was lined up on the inside. There's no rule as to how far to the inside you can be. At least I've never seen that rule come into effect. So and he didn't advance his position. So he just got completely Big Daddy NASCAR'd here. Basically eliminates him from the race because now he's got to do a pass through under green. Completely eliminated him. Poor Corey Haim. And now that just adds to the list of many people so far this season that have been Big Daddy NASCAR'd. Really, the only major caution in this race was on lap 111 when your superstar, who shall remain nameless, turns Dean Thompson. I think this is the second or third time so far this season this has occurred. So unfortunate for Dean Thompson, but your superstar did take them out there on lap 111, or at least spun them around. And really, again, the same thing as the first stage. Ty Majeski dominated it. Won stage 2. Looks like he had the most dominant car. Unfortunately, though, he had a speeding penalty on the stage caution pit sequence there between stage 2 and 3. Ends up putting him to the back. This inherited Carson Hocevar to the lead. Majeski played a really odd strategy call there in the final stage. Was on older tires and was able to kind of re-inherit the lead there. Was up about 16 seconds over Hocevar there with about 20 something to go, almost 30 to go. It was really just trying to hang on. Hocevar did end up getting to the lead there with 4 laps to go. And unfortunately for Majeski, just didn't have the tires to last. And Carson Hocevar ends up taking his third win of the season, third career win. So this season's just been a fantastic season so far here for Carson Hocevar. And we got Tom here. Tom is back. Let me fix my headset here. I don't know why it's giving me issues. All right.
Can you hear me?
I believe we're good. I can hear you. Stream can hear you.
Oh, okay.
He is here.
All right.
We just finished talking about the SRX race and Paul Tracy, as well as the truck race so far. Yeah, I want to get your opinion on the SRX suspending Paul Tracy. In my opinion, this is a Big Daddy NASCAR move, isn't it?
Yeah. Well. Okay. So look, we got to look at it on how Tony Stewart runs that series, right? So he has a dedicated base of like mechanics and parts and whatever, and if they're always having to repair a driver's car from on-track incidents and whatnot every week, I kind of feel like maybe Tony Stewart didn't make that bad of a choice. Maybe I don't know. I just say, and I'm gonna stick with this. I'm gonna stick with you need a villain in every sport. And I feel like I'm conflicted. I feel like that SRX really missed out on an opportunity here. But I also understand the standpoint where they're coming from when they're racing on a budget. Especially bringing in all these big name people. I mean, right? I mean, is SRX paying these drivers? Do you know?
I mean, they have sponsors. I don't know how much money that the sponsors are forking out to the drivers. But yes, they do have sponsors for each car.
Yeah. I just don't know, like, those hard facts, but I do know that I'm conflicted. that's about it. Because I understand where small budget racing is, and I do see SRX as a small budget racing sort of deal because it's all the same cars, the same team owner basically, and like they're all racing against each other to see who's the best of the best. But that's also the other point is we're racing to see who's the best of the best. And you're bound to have a villain. Nobody's gonna play nice when it's come to SRX, right? Yeah. Right? Or am I just in another world here? I don't know. I don't know.
The only thing I said before you got here was I think the biggest disappointment of this whole situation is the fact that he wrecked himself trying to wreck New Garden.
Yeah.
Which is why I nominated him for Bonehead Move of the Week. It's not the fact that he did it, it's the fact that he wrecked himself doing it. So
Well, what's the number one rule of stock car racing?
exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And then the other thing I want to get your opinion on, I've already talked about the trucks. Majeski dominated it and unfortunately had that speeding penalty, took him out of contention and ended up losing the race to Hocevar. But the major thing here was in between stage 1 and 2 when Corey Heim was already lined up on the inside about 4th row. The guys in front of him didn't get going. And NASCAR ruled him a restart violation for changing lanes before the start-finish line, which in my thought process is he never advanced his position. He didn't jump the restart. Is there a rule that says you can't be a car length lower than the guys you're racing against on a restart? Because I've never seen that rule come into effect.
I thought the rule was you can't pass on the inside of anybody before the start-finish line. Well, obviously, no. The rule was you can't change lanes before the start-finish line. But if you're having an accordion effect, which, am I right? They had an accordion effect there. It wasn't... The inside leader didn't go on that restart. Right? Or am I thinking of something else?
No, you're thinking of the same thing. The guys in front of him just didn't go. He didn't jump the restart or anything.
He was just getting out of the way. It's like, dang it. Justin Haley at Talladega, when he was coming to the start-finish line, he goes underneath the yellow line to avoid a wreck, and then NASCAR said that he advanced his position and took the win away. It's like... he's just getting out of the way to avoid a possible worse scenario of wrecking his vehicle, basically. That's how I look at it. I don't think that's right that they penalized him at all. I think he was just wreck avoidance.
Yeah, but they considered it him changing his line before he got to the start-finish line. So how did they define the lines coming to the start-finish line? Did they have 5 different... Or is there like painted lines? Is it all like auto-generated, computer-generated to define the lines? Because he was on the inside line. He didn't change lines. He just moved lower in the inside line on the restart. I didn't know there was a rule against that.
But
big gray area.
It's gotta be all circumstantial.
Yeah.
And we know that old Big Daddy NASCAR here, they're not that good at making those kind of calls like that.
That's what I said. He got Big Daddy NASCAR. Is exactly what I said. So
I think it's dumb that that happened, in my opinion. But Big Daddy NASCAR.
Yeah, what are you gonna do? It's Big Daddy NASCAR trying to rig these races. But again, like I said, Carson Hocevar wins the race. Kind of stole that one from Majeski. More like Majeski just kind of threw it away there. I mean, and then had to do a desperation call at the end to try and win. Just didn't work out. But yeah, that summarizes the truck race. We're going to talk about the Xfinity race next. The Henry 180 at Road America. I mean, going into this race, I love Road America. Probably it's in my top 5 racetracks in the world as favorites. And then the Xfinity series, we've mentioned it time and time again, best series in the world. So it's just a great recipe to be had. The one thing to note in this race, since all the teams were in Richmond for the truck and cup race, these race had non-competitive pit stops. We saw AJ Allmendinger, who's in the midst of a championship battle or playoff battle to get into the playoffs in the Cup Series, forewent practice and qualifying at Richmond to run this race. What are your thoughts on Allmendinger making the choice to? I guess he had this scheduled season, but like not bailing on it and staying true to running this race.
I don't know, man. It's kind of weird. In the position that Allmendinger's in right now in points, I was actually surprised that when we talked about it last week that he was going to be pulling that doubleheader in the Kaulig All-Star car. But I don't know, in the position that he's in points right now, I thought that was kind of weird. And it did end up being a pretty weird weekend because AJ didn't really... I mean, he ran decent in terms of his skills at Road America, but it wasn't like he was spectacular, at Road America. So I guess what I'm trying to get to here is that it was kind of a botched weekend, to be honest.
Yeah, that's what I want to talk about. So Allmendinger did qualify and pole, looked like he had the pace. he led all the way to lap 6, and then Allgaier took the lead, and Allgaier pretty much controlled this race, right? We had a competition caution at lap 10, because non-competitive pit stop, so they had to break it into 4 different segments to run this race, so they had to have a competition caution at lap 10. A major incident, though, on lap 21. I want to get your opinion on this, and the IQ, I guess, of Chandler Smith here. When he lost his brakes on lap 21 coming across the start-finish line, great camera work, by the way. I mean, what the thought process of these camera guys, like, they could have filmed any of those 38 cars at this exact second, but the fact that they chose to film Chandler Smith at that exact moment before his brakes started coming apart, I mean, great. And then the avoidance of going head on into the wall. I mean, what a move. Have you ever seen it? A driver purposefully try to go in? Well, we see it at ovals, right? With like a Pocono, and we saw it at Gateway earlier this year. But on a road course, to have that kind of awareness to go for a wall on the inside there. I mean, what are your thought process on this whole wreck here with Chandler?
Yeah, he was on it. He was on it. And he saved himself a lot of injury, too. Which was... I mean, that rotor blew up. And the only race footage that I remember watching was just slow-mo versions. There wasn't one, like, 1-to-1 speed of him brake rotor blowing and then turning left. It was all slow motion. But, I mean, almost as soon as that brake rotor blew, you could tell he kind of panicked a little bit because he went back and forth in his car, probably trying to smash the brakes, and it wasn't working. And then it just made the snap decision to just turn it left into the wall. I mean, that was like, I mean, that, I guess all you can really say is just the experience going right through the steering wheel. I mean, he knew exactly what he needed to do. He executed, and we did not see an absolutely crazy incident like what we've seen in the past, where a car has absolutely cleared the fence there.
Yeah, that's a great comment, great point. And like I said, Allgaier took the lead here early. He wins stage 1. Riley Herbst, I mean, beginning of stage 2, he gets turned here with contact with Nemechek. He was running top 5 in this race. He was really got those stage points at stage 1. Looked like he was gapping Parker Kligerman here in the points and kind of taking control of this, and gets turned there. Unfortunate for him, puts him at the back of the field. From here, really the only other things to talk about in stage 2 was John Hunter Nemechek basically becoming a certified Husqvarna lawnmower here. I think he went off the track about 4 or 5 times within like a 3-lap phase, and ultimately just got over a curb into the grass, ripped the whole front end off that car, took out his radiator, took out his oil pan. I mean, he just destroyed this car. I mean, is this warranted to nominate this man as a bonehead move of the week? He was running 5th, goes off the track about 4 times. I mean, what happened?
I don't know. It's kind of embarrassing though, because it's not like he had a slow car. I mean, what was he running 5th at the time or 6th or something? I mean,
something like that. He was running good.
What are you doing?
So I'll be very disappointed if he doesn't have a Husqvarna sponsorship for next weekend. So, and then Allgaier again, still been dominating this race. Win stage 2, and then they had a major incident here with 4 to go, which kind of set up an overtime finish here. Josh Berry started in the back of the field, drove all the way up to the top 10, ends up getting into Sammy Smith. Sammy Smith spins sideways, gets into Allmendinger, collects Custer, who had been running, Custer at the time was running P2, and basically eliminated all 3 of those guys from contention in this race. All significant damage. I just want to note the driving talent of Sage Karam. This guy drove pretty much top 5 all day. He had so much awareness. He hit the brakes at the perfect time, grazed the bumper of Custer's car, I believe it was, and then Custer gets cleaned out. He slides onto the inside of all of them and moves up to P2. I mean, when you're in this situation, how do you know this is going to happen? I mean, this was like an absolute Houdini move by Sage Karam here. I was so in shock that he was able to see and react the way he did to that incident.
Yeah, I mean, what an absolute Chad move that we witnessed there. You could put, and he's an IndyCar driver too, and well, that was the first thing he pursued. But I mean, you put any other IndyCar driver in that position, not like that goofball Connor Daly, he would have stuffed that thing so hard into the wall. In the same equipment, it wouldn't have been. Here's the point: is that Sage Karam had such a good run last weekend with the equipment that he had. He absolutely, if you would have put him in the Colleague All-Star car, man, that dude could have won that race. Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's what I want to talk about next is the finish of this race, right? We get into an overtime finish. Allgaier has been the dominant car all day. Sage Karam with the wreck avoidance moves up to P2, and it kind of opens the door for Sam Mayer as well. We get the green around turn 5. That's when Allgaier makes his first mistake, allows Sage Karam to get past him and take the lead here. And then Allgaier, ends up sliding off the track and eliminating himself from contention of this race here with 2 to go by spinning. So the dominant car all day has troubles. And then it becomes a battle between Sam Mayer, then Parker Kligerman comes out of nowhere, and Sage Karam. Sage Karam ends up going off the track. Mayer takes advantage of it. Parker Kligerman gets in the battle, ends up shoving Parker Kligerman off the track. Sam Mayer takes the lead before the white, ends up holding on and winning the race. I mean, if you guys haven't seen the last 2 laps of this Xfinity race at Road America, you guys are missing out on one of the greatest finishes. Insane finishes we've seen all season. Just absolute mayhem. I mean, I'm still in shock from what I saw because I think it was very underrated. Like, nobody was talking about it. Nobody was even mentioning it. And we just saw an insane finish that led to Sam Mayer getting his first career win. Unreal. I mean, if you were to guess that Sam Mayer would win his first career race, you wouldn't have thought it would have been Road America, right? I mean, no. Wow.
It's cool that he got it done at his home track too. That's pretty cool.
It's very cool. And this kind of opens the door. We haven't really seen Junior Motorsports capitalize really all season. It started at Daytona, right? They get these guys up front late in these races, and they find ways to lose. Whether it's Josh Berry, whether it's Allgaier, whether it's Sam Mayer, it just seems like they find ways to take dominant performances and turn them around. And they finally got one done, and to get Sam Mayer's first career win. So maybe there's big things coming for Junior Motorsports. Maybe Sam Mayer will turn it up and go on a hot streak here heading into the playoffs. It's the time to do it. And then the one other thing I want to mention here is Parker Kligerman got P2. And you would think that's amazing, right? So Riley Herbst gets spun around early in the race. Then PK is able to take advantage of it and get all these points. Not necessarily, because Riley Herbst drove himself all the way back up to P5. When I saw the finishing order and I saw Riley Herbst in P5, I couldn't believe what I had seen. Like, how did he do that? Driver of the Week nominee, Riley Herbst. The perseverance of this man to come away with the most amount of points he could get and really doesn't allow Parker Kligerman to gain those points on him. Just insane. What a job he did. Is there anything else you want to talk about in the Xfinity race before we move on to the next one?
Yeah, highly underrated. Although I really would have liked to see Sage Karam go up there, and he did mix it up, but I was really hoping he was going to win that race. I know it was going to be pretty difficult, but still, Sam Mayer drove a great race. He was there when he needed to be there, and he capitalized. Did a great job there. But just like what you said, highly underrated. It was still a really good race. There was still lots happening, and just a lot of. It was just a quality race. Like, that was something that we should be seeing every weekend. Really.
Yeah. I mean, it's, again, like we always say, Xfinity Series, best series, and they just proved it. One of the best tracks, best series, and then what a race. And even with non-competitive pit stops and stage racing, it still turned out to be an amazing race. So,
which I just want to say one thing: non-competitive pit stops is going to be the death of many careers in NASCAR, and I do not agree with that. I think pit stops add a great aspect to any racing, and I think it's a shame that they're doing it like how they're doing it now.
Yeah, I
So
agree.
that's big daddy NASCAR.
Which makes no sense. Why can't these teams hire their own pit crews? Because is there only literally like two sets of pit crews that do all the NASCAR series? I mean, really? If you think
No,
about
I
it, they're
mean,
all over it. And why can't they go out and hire more people to be in pit crews? It's the same thing we keep going on with NASCAR, right? They're keep just subtracting and decreasing every year. They just have less teams, less charters available. Now they've got less people over the wall to pit these cars. It doesn't make any sense.
no,
Why isn't there a specific pit crew for every team in all three series? That's the reason they didn't have competitive pit stops, 100%.
But there's also third-party hiring companies for pit stops that could easily sell a pit crew for a weekend. And you know what? I bet you money that there would be people willing to do it for free. You just pay their room and board, and they'd be there.
Yeah,
Guarantee
100%.
it.
I mean, I'm sure I know for a fact there's many pit schools that have people up and coming that would literally, if you just paid for them to be there, they would do it and they could have competitive pit stops. So it's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah,
but
it is.
It is what it is. That's Big Daddy NASCAR. That's just the way they want to run their leagues anymore, and it's just a snowball effect from there. But yes, Riley Herbst nominated for Driver of the Week, and then John Hunter Nemechek for Bonehead of the Week, and we'll read those off later, and we'll put the poll up after the podcast as well. Real quick, I want to talk about the F2 races real quick before we get into Formula 1 and the Cup. F2, the Spa-Francorchamps Grand Prix sprint race. We saw Daruvala on pole. And then, funny thing happened. I guess I don't really know what to think of this, but he ended up losing his headrest from the lead. How unfortunate, man. He was dominating that race, and his headrest comes out of the car, flies off, ends up having to make a pit stop, hands the lead over to Versure here later in the race, and then Fittipaldi come out of nowhere there at the end of the race. Just an incredible run. Got by Versure there with like 2 laps to go, and he ends up going on to win. And now he is a Formula 2 winner. So we've seen so many new winners of Formula 2 this year. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And then for the feature race for Formula 2, the notable thing here was your guy that started P2 was your points leader, Frederick Vesti. He crashed on the formation lap.
Yeah.
How have you ever? What? That is the most F2 thing I've ever heard of.
Well, I mean, put Graham Rahal in that category, crashing under caution for the IndyCar race at Detroit. I mean, it's still extremely comical. Like, don't get me wrong there.
Yeah, so that's gonna nominate him as a Bonehead Move of the Week. You just cannot crash under yellow formation lap. You can't crash while parked. That will nominate you right away. But his teammate Behrman started on pole here. Really, the only major incident in this race, or I guess there's 2 major incidents. One was Hadjar. He ends up wrecking on pit lane, coming off a pit lane, just drove right into the wall. It was the weirdest thing I've ever seen. It's like he couldn't even turn the car on pit exit, just went straight into the wall, killed his race. And then Crawford ends up Correa ends up turning Crawford there, which led to a safety car with 17 laps, or on lap 17, which opened the door for Pourchaire and Doohan to battle for the lead. And fortunate for Doohan, Jack Doohan, he ends up winning the race, which is another Formula 2 victory for him. So that was a good weekend there for Formula 2. Next, we'll talk about the Formula 1 weekend. There's not a lot to talk about here, right? We saw Verstappen qualify on pole for the sprint race. He ends up leading pretty much the whole race. I mean, well, not necessarily, because there was a little bit of rain and weather that came in there, and some people decided to pit on lap 1 to put the wets on. Verstappen chose to pit on lap 2. The guy that let him down on pit lap 1 was Piastri, and Piastri ended up leading this race for quite a while. We had a safety car on lap 3 with Alonso crashing, so Alonso just continually falling off a cliff here as of the last few races. And then Verstappen ended up dueling it out with Piastri there on lap 6, ended up taking the lead, and then went off to win the sprint race. So I want to nominate Piastri as a driver of the week for his P2 performance in the sprint race for the Belgian Grand Prix, because he not only led for 6 laps, but he battled it out with Verstappen and outran who for some reason is pretty much like the consensus favorite over there at McLaren is Lando Norris. And I mean, I don't really like the guy. I mean, he's more Chase Elliott than anything to me.
Good
But
Lord, thank you.
I don't know,
Sometimes
man. You talk to anybody that doesn't even know Formula One, and the only person they can name is Lando Norris. It's like, how?
That's honestly, I feel like I'm on an island here when I talk about how overrated Lando Norris is. I mean,
I think it's 100%.
Daniel
overrated.
Ricciardo was there, won a race before him. I mean, and then you guys can him. What do you mean? That just goes to show you, man. Like, McLaren wanted to be like Red Bull and do the same program they did with Max Verstappen, and it didn't work out because Lando Norris is not a generational talent and will not ever be.
I agree.
Hot take.
So overrated. No, I'm with you 100%. I don't understand the allure to Lando Norris. He's not even like a cool dude to listen to. He's literally the Chase Elliott of Formula One. Literally 100%.
Yep.
He's got all this popularity but no personality and is subpar decent to his teammates on good nights. That's it. There's nothing else to it. And then that leads us to the Belgian Grand Prix, the feature race here. We saw Charles Leclerc on pole, which really surprised me because Verstappen had that 5-place penalty grid from practice. And then Piastri has that amazing sprint race, ends up going into turn 1, 3 wide up on the inside near the wall. It got squeezed in, really killed his race. We saw Perez take the lead early in this race before, I think right after they went up the hill, Perez got by Leclerc. He led all the way until lap 17 when Verstappen ends up entering the picture, and Verstappen ends up going from there to win his 8th consecutive Formula One Grand Prix. Let that sink in. Let me say it one more time. 8th consecutive Formula One Grand Prix. I mean,
and it's not going to stop.
It's insane. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it ain't going to stop. Like Tom said, this is just the beginning. I mean, how many races are left this season? Like 10? Yeah. He's probably going to win every single one of those. He is going to be unbeatable. Unless something absolutely drastic happens, like being buried in the field in a lap 1 incident or something crazy. But I don't see anything changing either. I mean, this is insane. He is amazing. I mean, there's just nothing else you could say about Verstappen, really, at this point. He's just the greatest driver there is right now in Formula One with the best car. Yeah. He's having like a Jimmy Johnson-esque season right now. I mean, it's insane. It's insane. And then to note that Perez finally gets back on P2 in the podium here. And then Carlos Sainz, P3. I mean, what a race for Carlos Sainz. Finally doing something of relevance in a Ferrari. And then Verstappen ends up getting the fastest lap in the race as well to just pad his points. So that's what we're going to go over next is the Formula One drivers' points. Verstappen is at 314, 125 points ahead of Perez, and then 165 ahead of Alonso. I mean, Verstappen could miss the next, 5 races, and he would still be tied in points with Perez.
Yeah.
That's insane to think about. And then, yeah, it's just so far ahead of Alonso too. And then for constructors, I mean, it's kind of falling apart for Aston here. Red Bull's obviously still in the lead. Mercedes is 256 points back, and then Aston's 307 back. So Mercedes is building that gap to Aston Martin. But I mean, with Alonso's troubles or fall off of performance recently, and then Lance Stroll being an absolute failure of a race car driver, it's really kind of falling apart for Aston Martin as we're going through the season. So it looks like Mercedes is going to pretty much secure that. And I think Ferrari is only a few points behind Aston there for the 3rd position in the podium or in the constructors. So getting real tight. Also, I want to talk about the SRX points real quick because I did not mention those. Ryan Newman is your points leader at 105, and Andretti is 21 back in 2nd, and then Stewart is 24 back in 3rd. So that's tightening up there in SRX as well. Next, it's time to talk about the Cup race. The Cookout 400. We saw Tyler Reddick qualify on pole. He dominated stage 1. Just nothing to talk about there. Ends up dominating it. Takes the stage 1 win. Stage 2 started, and his teammate Bubba Wallace ends up taking the lead there on lap 80. And he was the leader here until he had a slow stop there in stage 2, which allowed Keselowski to inherit the lead and win stage 2. But then Keselowski, I remember you texted me, Tom, somewhere during the race when he was leading, and you're like, man, Keselowski's got this unless something bad happens or NASCAR messes it up for him. Nope. Unfortunately, you jinxed him, and he screwed himself out of this win. He had a terrible pit stop there in the stage 3,
and it was all self-inflicted.
100% self-inflicted.
God, it was awful. I just sat there and I saw my hair falling out of my head, man. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, it just really stinks for Keselowski. Fortunately, though, for him, his teammate Buescher ends up taking the lead there later in that race. And then in the final stage, the main incidents here was Reddick. I mean, he had a top 5 car, top 3 car probably, which probably the closest there to Buescher at the end there besides Keselowski, and just had a pit stop violation there. He went over the commitment line, ends up having to do a pass through, and then after that, his car was just junk. I mean, I don't know what happened after that. Ends up finishing a lap down. The only caution not for stages was when Lyle Gregson turned Suarez. I mean, just two people having absolutely terrible seasons, just becoming a clown show at the end there. At this point,
a meme at this
point, it's bad.
Okay, so I just want to go on this rabbit trail real quick. Let's go back to when we watched Daytona. We had high hopes for Suarez. Not just a 1-win race season, but a multiple-win race season. And he was doing so good last year. And Chastain was doing so good last year, you know? And what have we seen this year? Like, nothing from that guy. We haven't seen a single bit of that 99 car challenging for a win. I mean, at all. Like, did his girlfriend break up with him? Or did his dog die? You know, I don't know, man. Like, I am still at this point right now. I cannot believe where Suarez is in points right now. It is insane, the difference between him and his teammate. And you can't tell me that Chastain's getting the better equipment. Because that guy's not bringing anything to the team. He doesn't have no sponsors. But Suarez does. You know what I mean? So, like, there can't be that inter-team politics on who gets the better equipment because they've got more sponsors. Because Chastain doesn't have any sponsors. He just goes out there and races, man. You know? And then old Lyle Gregson here turning it up in the Xfinity series and comes to a relatively pretty good team, which had a lot of changeovers in the offseason, and they also increased a car. We also know what happens every time Petty Motorsports increases a car. They go absolute dog water every time. But besides the point, we all thought that old Lyle Gregson was a good driver. Chicago turn 6 changed my opinion on that.
I think a lot of things have changed my opinion on Lyle Gregson. I mean,
I just don't get it. You could have not scripted this, like, at all.
I mean, him and Suarez, I mean, if you look at it, their seasons are pretty comparable. I mean, not in their performances, but like just how they're not terrible drivers, right? Like, coming into this season, you're looking at Lyle Gregson, you know he's got an uphill battle because he's against Gibbs, and Gibbs is literally a generational talent. He has proven it time and time again. You know he had an uphill battle anyway for comparing to him, but it, like, for his performances to be this bad and just self-inflicted, right? Everything that Noah Gragson and Suarez have done this year has been self-inflicted, and it just doesn't seem to be turning around. And it goes to show again this weekend that they're the only two that had any contact at the end of the race, and it looked like it was going to take this victory away from Chris Buescher, right? Nope, Chris Buescher is on it on that restart. I mean, he absolutely figured it out at the end there. Even Hamlin tried a desperate move there on the outside, locked up the brakes, couldn't make it happen. And Chris Buescher walks away with his third career win, ends up first win of the season, locks himself into the playoffs for sure. He doesn't have to rely on the points that he had buffered. And, I mean, are we looking at... I guess my biggest takeaway is Ford, right? I mean, how terrible they have been this season. You take away that one stolen win at Atlanta for Logano over Keselowski. That was really the only race you looked at where Ford was good. And then Blaney obviously got the 600, but that was here nor there. I mean, he just kind of was destined to win that race. And then other than that, I mean, where's Ford been all season, right? That's been the whole talking point for Cup has been where's Ford? And they dominated this race. I mean, not just Ford, but it was, well, I mean, Stewart Haas ran pretty good. Ryan Preece on a note, driver of the week nominee, P5, just had a week that he needed desperately. Almirola ran good there. Harvick was running good. Even Chase Briscoe, the man that runs 34th, can't even keep up with a Live Fast car, ran in the top 15 in this race. I mean, where did they come from? For Richmond, of all places. This was supposed to be a Toyota race.
I don't know. It's insane to me at such a Toyota dominant track that not only was it just one Ford that was fast, there was a lot of Fords that were fast. So I don't know if they found something in their engine department or something of the such. I don't think, does SHR and RFK have a relationship?
I don't think so, honestly.
I don't think so either. Because yeah, because SHR is with Rick Ware.
Yeah. And RFK is going to be with Rick Ware next year.
Oh, okay. So maybe they are sharing a little bit. I don't know. But
who knows?
The point is that this was a Toyota dominant track. And the Fords really flexed their muscles last weekend. They really did. They flexed hard.
Yeah. I mean, I was super impressed with that performance. And then the other thing I want to note is I think this was the first race all season that tires actually mattered. I'm going to eat a little bit of crow because me and Tom came on here last week and we said this race is going to suck because tires aren't going to mean anything. Track position is going to mean the world. And it was the complete opposite. This was probably the best race we've seen in the last 7 weeks of NASCAR. This was an awesome race from start to finish. We saw strategy included. We saw tires mean something. We saw comers and goers. This was a fantastic race. I was so impressed. We've seen just terrible races, right? Chicago, of course, if it wasn't for Shane Van Gisbergen winning, that race really was terrible. Atlanta, we've beat that horse till it's dead. I mean, that race was terrible. What did we have in the last few weeks? We had, I mean, I can't even remember because they sucked. They were terrible races. Nothing memorable, right? And we finally get a Pocono. Yeah, terrible race from start to finish. And then we finally get an amazing race. And honestly, I would love to see a race I would love to see road courses, and I would also love to see racetracks like Richmond, like Pocono, any of these ovals that include strategy to have no stage cautions. Because if we have no stage cautions, we have one caution all race, and this race becomes amazing. I mean, what are your thoughts on taking away stage cautions at these type of strategy ovals?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's okay to do like the points deal, at this lap, we'll do what we do on road courses where no caution, but we are going to keep track of where everybody finished, and we will hand out points. Fine, whatever. But stop. This was a perfect opportunity for NASCAR to say, okay, let's test something here. Let's do what we do at the road courses. And no stage cautions. Just let them keep running and see how it plays out. Because we know how great. I mean, Richmond was a great race. And like what you said, you eating crow, I'll eat crow too. And I am happy to do it because this was a great race. It really was. But it could have been a great opportunity for NASCAR to go ahead and say, let's test something. Let's test it without the stage cautions. Let's just keep going and see how this works out. And it could have been a completely different race. I don't know. And then I'd be eating crow on no more or to stop stage cautions. And I would have been fine with that. I would have gladly eaten crow with that as well. But yeah.
Yeah, I was thoroughly thrilled.
That's all I can say.
Thrilled. I think this was a top 5 race of the season. I mean, 500 was
For sure.
amazing because it's 500. You never know what's going to happen. Talladega was a good race for the most part at the end. And then the 600 was a great race this year. I mean, there was a lot of action in that race, strategy as well. And then I think I'd put this one right up there with those guys. I mean, this was one of the best races of the season. It was awesome. And I know the fan reception on it's terrible because they want these manufactured cautions and wrecks and stuff, but that's not racing. That's not NASCAR. This was old school NASCAR. This was awesome. This was a great race. And honestly, if they could bring back the tire compound they had, they could bring back whatever they did this weekend. Just do all of that again. Let's bring that back and let's try it again. Because let's not touch it. Let's not touch it. Let's not mess with the aero package. Nothing. This was a great race. We saw people being able to pass under green. We saw Buescher and Keselowski running right with each other for laps, and Buescher they were just so identical. Buescher couldn't get around it, but he was picking him off one by one, just trying to do it. We saw Bubba Wallace drive from like 8th to the lead early in this race. I mean, we saw racing action and strategy involved as well. One of the best races of the season, and I am glad that I was wrong. I am 100% glad I was wrong.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
I want to be wrong, right? That's why we're so critical on racing, is because we know what we want to see. We know what they need to do, and then we come out here and tell you what's going to happen. And if we're right, we're going to brag about it. But if we're wrong, we're going to come up here and be like, "Yep, I'm glad we were wrong," because ultimately that's all we want is the health of racing. That's what we love. So,
yep.
All right. Is there anything else you want to add to this before I go over the points?
Yeah, Keselowski is going to win a race. He is. Listen, I have not ever been a Keselowski fan, but I've become a Keselowski fan since what I've seen him do on and off track with that RFK team. It is impressive what he's done. It is just extremely cool to see what he's done. You know, he's a previous team owner too in the truck series, so I'd like to think he knows what he's doing. I think he's proving that he knows what he's doing, but it's just, man, it's heartbreak after heartbreak with this guy. I can't keep up with it. Just win a race, man. I know. Easier said than done, I get it, but good lord.
I was going to ask you what track you think he can win at, but honestly, the way he's been running this season, it's like he can win dang near anywhere. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So
I don't know, man. He's got a good chance at Daytona. I think he's got a good chance this weekend, or this upcoming weekend. I don't know. We've seen him strong at road courses before, but he's kind of hit and miss there. So I don't know. I honestly don't really know.
Alrighty. So next we will go over the point standings. Truex Jr. is still your points leader at 744. New second place in points, Denny Hamlin. With his recent successes, he is now 39 points behind Truex. And then Byron is now third in points. He is 43 points behind Truex. So it looks like Truex, Hamlin, Byron, any one of those three guys could win the regular season title with only, is it 4 races left? We got Michigan, Indianapolis Road Course, Watkins Glen, Daytona. So we got 4 races left before the playoffs. That's just getting heated up. And then their cut line. Michael McDowell is currently in 16th in points, 18 points ahead of Gibbs, who has just moved up to 18 points behind McDowell. Those are the 2 guys I picked to make the playoffs on points, although Bubba Wallace is in 15th, and he got a ton of points this week. But he's got 2 tracks coming up here in the next 4 that he is not known to be good at. So that's going to be very interesting to see if he can keep that momentum rolling. All right, and then we will do our infamous driver and bonehead of the week segments. Driver of the week, we're going to nominate Ryan Preece for P5 and Cup. This is something that he desperately needed. He has just had terrible luck this season, had no speed, and this was a great performance by him. Riley Herbst, just because of the comeback. I mean, it looked like when he got spun there in stage 2 that his chance to make the playoffs were gone. He prevailed and did a veteran-esque type drive there and rebounded to get a P5. And then Oscar Piastri just absolutely doing a phenomenal job this weekend, specifically in the F1 sprint race. And then bonehead of the week, Paul Tracy, Walling Newgarden, obvious reasons. If you're going to wreck somebody, don't wreck yourself. And then John Hunter Nemechek, straight up Toro mode, Husqvarna sponsorship next week, potentially. And then Frederick Vesti wrecking on a formation lap. If you wreck under caution, you wreck on a formation lap. If you wreck while you're parked, you are going to be nominated regardless of the situation. So that is your bonehead of the week. We'll put those polls up at the end of the podcast as typical for you guys to vote on. And we'd like to hear what you guys vote for. All right. It is time to preview this weekend's races, right? This weekend, we're going to see SRX at Berlin Speedway. We're going to see Indy and Indy NXT for the third iteration of the Nashville Street Course, as well as ARCA, Xfinity, and Cup at Michigan, and IMSA and the Pilot Challenge Series, the Michelin Pilot Challenge Series at Road America. This weekend's notable entries in SRX, we have Johnny Benson and Casey Kane coming to run in the SRX Series. In Xfinity, we have Allmendinger is going to be in the All-Star Colleague car again at Michigan. Ty Gibbs in the number 19 for JGR. And then Carson Hocevar, off weekend for trucks. He's going to be making another Xfinity start for Spire on that 77. And then as well in IMSA, we got 10 GTP entries, 7 LMP2, 8 LMP3, 5 GTD Pro, and 16 GTD cars. That's a huge entry list there for IMSA. All series running this weekend in the WeatherTech Series at Road America. And then the Cup Series, Cole Custer will be behind the wheel of the 51 Rick Ware Racing car again. Austin Hill, he'll be in the Beard car for in the 62 in Cup. And then Josh Bilicki for Live Fast. All right, let's do our predictions, right? This weekend, or on Thursday, we have the SRX at Berlin, round 4 of 6. So we're already past halfway through the season. Favorite start courses, what to expect. What to expect is what we've seen all season long. Just beating and banging and some great racing. Short track racing at its finest. I believe this weekend Tony Stewart gets the job done, gets the dub, and kind of closes that point gap he has to Newman. And then my dark horse, I have a good feeling about this guy. He hasn't done much since getting out of NASCAR. World Outlaws haven't really worked out for him either. I believe Casey Kane is a little dark horse sneaker to maybe take this win this weekend. Who do you got, Tom?
Yeah, so with my favorite, I'm going to go with the obvious, like Casey Kane, because why not?
Heck yeah.
And then for my dark horse, I'm just going to choose the 2 notable entries here, and my dark horse, I'm doing Johnny Benson. How old is that man?
I have no idea. He's got
to be pretty old, right? I mean, he
hasn't raced forever.
Yeah, but he was around like during the inception of the truck series, right?
Yeah.
Like he was early 90s, late 90s, right? I mean, that dude's got to be pushing 55, 60. Am I wrong? Like, I feel like this dude is old.
That's a good
but
question.
anyways,
I'll look that up after the podcast.
anyways, I think it's cool nonetheless. I mean, we already have Ken Schrader up in here. He's gonna have a buddy with him now.
Heck yeah.
So.
The wheelchair. They should do the wheelchair races next year for those guys. Alrighty. And then Friday is the ARCA series at Michigan. It's the Henry Ford Health 200. I'm taking Jesse Love again. I mean, this guy is just I mean, there's only 2 guys you pick to win a race in ARCA, and this is one of them. And then I'm going to take Andres Perez again. I've taken him 3 straight weeks, and every time I picked him, he's gotten better and better and better and closer to a victory. Maybe this weekend's the one. Maybe he gets that Rev Racing car in a victory lane, gets his first career ARCA win. Who do you got?
Just because you chose Jesse Love, I'm going to choose Sawalich, the other guy who can win the race, you know? But with dark horses, I'm just going to go with Frankie Muniz because no particular reason, really. I just like to see him do good.
Me too. I would love to see him win a race. Alrighty. Next is the Xfinity Series at Michigan, the Cabo Wabo 250, whatever that is. I'm taking Justin Allgaier as my favorite. I believe he's going to get redemption for that failure at Road America. Like, how devastating of a race for him to lose. I believe that the junior motorsports cars are going to be fast. They were faster last year, and I believe that he's going to take the dub. And then my dark horse, I'm going with Riley Herbst. I mean, he showed me a lot. I've been a pretty anti-Riley Herbst guy ever since he's gotten to race into the Xfinity Series. I just don't think he has the talent. But these last 3 weeks, perseverance that this guy has shown to not just give up in this heat of this playoff battle, I'm just taking him as my dark horse. Maybe he'll do some good things. Who do you got, Tom?
I've got Austin Hill because we know how fast he is at these bigger tracks, and I think that shoot, where were we at the week before?
Pocono.
When he won, yeah. So obviously, I think he could unload fast and pull out that Austin Hill-esque that we saw at the beginning of the season. And then for my dark horse, I mean, Hocevar.
Heck yeah.
I mean, that man is a driver, right? I think it's only a matter of time before we see this man just go and light the world on fire. You just got to give him that. You got to give that guy the great or the right opportunity, right? You got to give him the right team, the right car, and that man will light this world on fire. And we are just witnessing the developmental stages, like what we did with Kyle Larson. Is he comparable to Kyle Larson? I think so. Maybe not in the dirt world, but in what we've seen on track, I think he is pretty comparable. But I might get a lot of hate for that. I don't really care. I am a huge believer in Hocevar. I think he can do a great job. Just got to give him the right opportunities.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. Maybe if colleague, they lost Justin Haley in the Cup Series, maybe they go pick up a Hocevar for Xfinity next year and put him through that pipeline.
Yes.
Who else do they have besides Chandler Smith? Hamrick ain't going nowhere. Allmendinger's basically retired. So, I mean, if you get Chandler Smith and Hocevar for your future, that might be a dynasty there building up in the future here. So that's awesome. Next is on Sunday is the IMSA Sports Car Weekend at Road America for the WeatherTech Series. My favorite, we're just going to do GTP because that is the premier class. I'm going to take the number 31 Wheeling Cadillac. They are the points leader. I'm a huge fan of their drivers lineup. They're just awesome drivers to watch, super aggressive. I believe that this weekend they take the dub and extend their points lead. And for my dark horse, and I am just picking them purely because of the absolute sheer underdog that this team is as being a customer purchase Porsche team in GTP, JDC Miller. I think that this weekend maybe they'll get a podium. Big surprise if they could. Who do you got, Tom?
I'm obviously gonna go with that number 1 car, CGR Caddy, baby. Let's go Bourdais. That's
Don't they wreck every time you pick them?
Hey, listen. All right, they're gonna turn it around this weekend. All right. And then for my my dark horse, I'm gonna go with Ray Hall and the BMW team, and I guess really no reason why other than I am seeing their success on the IndyCar side, and maybe might be seeing something similar there.
Yeah, and I believe that De Filippi is one of the best underrated drivers right now in sure. IMSA. I mean, this dude's insane. So yeah, that's a great pick. That honestly, that's who I was going to take before I took JDC Miller. Honestly, so I'm with you there. I'd love to see them be successful. And then after that race on Sunday is the Road America 120 for the Pilot Challenge Series. We're not going to make picks on this one, but I just know that McGuinness is in the race, so we'll have some goofball to watch. And then also on Sunday is the Indy NXT Firestone Music City Grand Prix at Nashville Street Course. Favorites and dark horses. I am going to take Nolan Siegel. I believe he gets redemption after getting taken out at Iowa, and he closes that point gap down on his teammate Rasmussen and makes it interesting here with a few races to go. And then my dark horse is Kiffin Simpson. I believe that he's going to put all the idiocity behind him, and he's going to find himself on a podium at the end of this race. Who do you got?
I got Rasmussen for favorite because, I mean...
There's two guys to pick.
I mean, yeah, really. And then for my dark horse, who was Nannini's replacement? What's his name again? Dang it. Okay, well, that guy right there, what did he finish? P4 on his debut race? Yeah, that guy. That guy can do it.
Yeah, it's going to kill me now that I can't remember his name. We nominated him last week as a driver of the week, and now I can't remember his name, but he is an exceptional talent. He jumped in a car that Nannini couldn't even do anything in and
grab him.
Brabham. That's it. Matthew Brabham.
Matthew Brabham.
Yep. That dude is
That's
a
who I got.
badass driver. I like him a lot. That's a great pick. Um, and then also on Sunday after that race is the IndyCar Series, Big Machine Music City Grand Prix. And my favorite this weekend, this dude is the street course master. He's in with the best team. Maybe wanting to get a little bit of a send off before he potentially rumored leaves. I'm taking Marcus Ericsson. I think this is his week. And then my dark horse is his teammate, the rookie that's only running the street and road courses. He has been getting faster and faster every time he touches the track. He keeps getting better finishes. Armstrong in that Chip Ganassi number 11. Who do you got?
I've got Pelot. Look, I know that Marcus Ericsson has really pretty much dominated this Nashville street course, but this man is on a whole new level this year, and I just really do not think that there is anybody to compete with him. I think the only way you can compete with him is on an oval, because he's a road course driver. I mean, he's still pretty strong on ovals, don't get me wrong. He should have won the Indy 500, but I still think that Pelot is going to be extremely hard to beat, and that's just that. And then for my dark horse, I'm taking Lundgaard, because I took that guy for Toronto. He won the dang race. All right, that's insane. And then, all right, that's insane. And then, their street course program was freaking phenomenal. I think they're going to come out and Nashville and do the same thing.
Alrighty, there you have it. Those are those. I'm excited for this race. I don't know how you feel about it, but this is the one I'm most excited. Well, Road America IMSA is obviously the top of my list, but this one is right there with it. And then we have the Cup race on Sunday, the Firekeepers Casino 400 at Michigan. I'm taking Larson to win this weekend. I have a feeling that this is going to be a Chevy-dominated race. For some reason, I just have that feeling. I know that Ford's looking strong. I know Harvick won it last year. Keselowski is a potential guy you're looking at to win, but I just have a feeling that Hendrick and specifically Larson is going to show up and dominate this race, and he's going to get it done. And then my dark horse, and it's kind of with the same thought process with Ford, kind of with Keselowski, Harvick maybe being fast to win. Ryan Preece, I mean, he's on a momentum high right now, and I believe that he is going to translate that to another top 10 finish this weekend at Michigan. Really. I mean, who do you got, Tom?
So I'm going to go with the complete opposite. I think that Ford is going to come out and just absolutely dominate. You'll see in my fantasy picks here, but my favorite is going to be Harvick. He won this race last year. I still think that Ford is extremely strong, and they're going to come out and flex muscles again in a non-surprising way, I guess you'd say, because Richmond was very surprising. I don't think it's going to be very surprising here. But then with my dark horse, I'm going to go with Todd Gilliland. That 38 car has just been freaking phenomenal, and whatever car you give him at whatever track, I think that Todd Gilliland is getting up to that point to be a Class A driver. I know that's probably another hot take right there, and a lot of people might disagree with me. Again, I don't care. I see the same potential in Hocevar as I do Gilliland. And my comparison to Hocevar and Larson still remain, so you can connect the dots there.
All right, now it's time for fantasy. Like Tom mentioned, he said is Ford dominant. I'm kind of all over the place on this one. This is kind of my last ditch throwaway effort before the playoffs here. I know that there's some road courses coming up with some different drivers. I can use some options there, but we're getting ready for the playoffs, and we need to save our good drivers for that. So this weekend, for my lineup, I'm taking Austin Dillon, and I just think that because Chevy's going to be good, and this is the only track really on the remaining schedule that I'm even going to attempt to pick him on. So this is it. And then I'm going to take Logano. I feel like they kind of threw the experimental stuff out the window, and I think they're probably giving it to Cindric now because Blaney's obviously running better. Logano's running better. So I think that Cindric's getting the experimental stuff. They've given up on him for the season. And then I'll take him. And then I'll take Bubba because I think Bubba and then Reddick as well. I think the 2311 is trending in the right direction. And then I'm also going to take Kevin Harvick. He won it last year, and I think he has a good chance to win this race. Who do you got?
All right, I'm putting all my eggs in one basket. So, Yes. You ready for this?
Heck yeah.
Harvick, Logano, Buescher, Briscoe, Gilliland.
He's going
All
Ford.
Fords.
Blue Oval, baby.
All
Michigan.
Fords. Yep, exactly.
Heck yeah.
I think it'd be just stupid for Ford not to realize that this is their hometown race and that they need to send all their A equipment there. In my opinion, I mean, it's getting close to the playoffs anyways. Send them the best stuff. Hopefully you can get a driver in that's not already locked in.
Let's hopefully they didn't use up all their speed at Richmond.
Yeah, right.
Alrighty, so bull picks there. Next is the matchups. We have our first one is Buescher Suarez. I'm going Buescher. I mean, this dude's hot right now. He's in a Ford. Suarez is just non-existent this season. That's an easy one for me.
Yeah, same here. I'm doing Buescher. That's the easiest pick I've ever had to make this year.
Next one is Harvick and Blaney, and this one can go either way, but I still think Harvick. I mean, this is his track. This is his grounds. I think Harvick beats Blaney this weekend.
I'm on the same page. Same page.
Next is Eric Jones and Harrison Burton, and I am taking Eric Jones to beat Harrison Burton. I haven't seen anything out of Harrison Burton this year, so Eric Jones.
Yeah, I'm taking Blue Oval, Harrison Burton. Even though it's Harrison Burton, I get it. Okay, get it. But again, I'm putting all my eggs in one basket. I'm going Ford.
And then the other one is Kyle Busch, William Byron. I'm taking Kyle Busch this week. I'm going off the grain of what I normally would. I have a feeling Kyle Busch is going to do really good this weekend. I really do. So, Kyle Busch.
So, they really kind of did me dirty here without giving me a Ford, but I'm going to go with William Byron here because just the string of bad luck that 8 car has had. To me, I just can't really justify it. And also, I mean, we've talked all year long about how that 24 car is a great pick no matter what for points in our fantasy leagues. So I'm going with a safe bet just in case, all of my eggs in my basket get squished. I might have a chance here.
So here you go. You heard it live. This is the weekend for Ford. Tom's throwing all his eggs in the basket. He's going all in on Ford this weekend. That's awesome. Alrighty. So next is the Radioactive of the Week segment. And the quote is, "All right, tell me something because I suck blank right now." If you can guess which driver said that in the post after this podcast, you will get a shout out in next week's episode. That pretty much summarizes our podcast, episode 27 here. Super excited for the races this weekend. We got some big things in the pipeline coming up here throughout the rest of the season. We're going to have a podcast dedicated to the playoff preview. We're about 4 races away here from the playoffs. We will come on here and give you our playoff preview from race 1 to the end and pick our champions, go through our grid with you guys here coming up soon. Also, other things in the works coming out. Also, Crash Compilation for July is out. Go check that out. Give it some love and some support. We got some crazy wrecks in there. Lots of stuff you don't want to miss. And then also, I'll let Tom talk about the iRacing stuff.
Yeah, so obviously we're still racing on Thursdays. We're doing our short track league there, so make sure you guys check that out. We are still broadcasting every Thursday, so make sure you guys stop on by and come and say hi to Jay and I when we're broadcasting. We were gonna have some cup racing on Monday, and it may be changing to Wednesday. But whatever day that is, this is the really cool part. And you guys, I kind of like to involve you guys in on it too. But the really cool part about that is whatever day they don't choose, Jay and I, we get to dictate what that series is going to be. But not only what that series is going to be, it's going to be called Fun Around and Find Out. And Jay and I, on a weekly basis, we get to choose the type of car and the type of track. So what I would like to do, Jay, is I would like to do a little spin wheel. And after the race on the Fun Around and Find Out League, we're going to be doing a little spin wheel and randomizing all the cars and tracks on the service. And we're going to be doing some crazy stuff. And let me tell you what, All right, we already tested one thing. We did the old Lotus 49 F1 cars, okay, at a super truck track. Jumps and everything, and it works. All right, so we're gonna be doing some crazy stuff. You guys got to tune in for that. That's gonna be awesome. All right, and then on Sundays, we're going to be introducing another new league, and that's going to be a road course league with our GT3 cars. So make sure you guys come out for that too. We got a whole bunch of new people coming in, lots of people who are excited about it, and quite frankly, I'm extremely excited about it. I know that Jay's really excited about it too, but what this is really going to turn into is a multi-class road course racing league where we're going to tour the world at all the different race courses that is available on iRacing, and we're going to be able to call it straight to YouTube, straight to you guys. So make sure you guys come out for that. Lots of cool stuff coming in the pipeline. We got some special events coming up, possibly even next month. So we're still planning that out. Not enough details yet to announce, but nonetheless, make sure you guys just keep checking out our channel. We're pushing some really cool stuff to you guys. I'm really excited to see what else may come to this channel. So just stay tuned. It's going to be really fun.
Alrighty. Yeah. So great stuff coming through the iRacing stuff. The broadcasting isn't slowing down. The podcast isn't slowing down either. We'll be back here next Tuesday for episode 28. We'll summarize all the races from this weekend and the ones coming up. And I'm sure there's going to be a ton of new news to cover as well in the ever-evolving world of motorsports. That just the funny season, silly season, whatever you want to call it, keeps ramping up. And then the playoffs. NASCAR playoffs are looming. They're getting closer. We'll see who can make the playoffs, and then we'll have that playoff push, as well as IndyCar season winding down. Points are tightening up, and then we're halfway through SRX season. So we're going to be crowning a champion there soon. And yeah, can't believe we're already in August. Only, 3 months left in the actual racing series. It's unbelievable. This year has kind of flown by. And lots of stuff planned for the offseason. I hope you guys enjoy the content. Hopefully you guys enjoy the races this weekend as much as we will. And we will catch you guys next Tuesday for episode 28. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, share this with all your friends, your family. And we will catch you guys in the next one.
sad again. Are you Splash Gang?